Hello, Thrive Nation. I've got a very interesting guest on the show today, and he is a skin expert and he is a lifestyle expert. He's a gentleman who's going to be talking about skincare, and I've been following him for a while, and it's just going to be fascinating since, as a physician, I've been dealing with skin and acne for 23 years. And I think it's so important that we look after our skin as one of the largest organs of the body. So, welcome to the show, Chris Gibson.
Pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. Let's give us a little bit of a backstory, Chris, how you got into skin. Everybody's going to be looking at your skin on YouTube. So we do want to hear about
nothing new there at all.
We do want to hear about your daily routine. But how did you get into health and skincare and weight loss? And we really want to go deep in those areas because it's an area in terms of Made to Thrive that we haven't spent a lot of time on in terms of the podcast. So it's really a privilege to have you on.
Sure. You brought up acne, which is actually how this all started for me because I had cystic acne pretty early on. I was about 11 and a half when I started having issues. So whisked off to the dermatologist, because in my family, there was a history of that and scarring. Some of the family members had severe scarring. So the goal there was to prevent, and the dermatologist's goal at the time is a really good one. Was to prevent any scarring. So I had to go in and get shots in the cysts and all that wonderful stuff. But I did manage to get away with a minimal amount of scarring when I finally got it cleared up. The problem was it just never went away. It would get a little better. It would come back. I did Accutane 2 rounds of that in the 80s. I did all the things. Not much has changed in the topical sphere, as you probably already know, for acne. We've had a few things like Adapalene, and they use retinoids more topically now than back then, but it still was benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, antibiotics to calm the bacteria down. So I went through this phase of thinking, well, when I get into my 20s, it'll go away, which it didn't go away. So I went to another really expensive dermatologist in my 20s, and I essentially got the same prescriptions for what I'd had before. I paid the bill, I walked out, and I talk about it in a book I wrote that was pretty famous about 10 years ago, and decided to figure this out on my own. So I learned, to keep this really short, I learned what was in my diet that was triggering the breakouts, which was a lot of sugar on top of all that antibiotic use. I had a candida issue.
Okay.
I went on a food vacation, which is probably that was the first time I'd ever had anything really put a stop to it. So I did a fast for 3 days. I just didn't eat anything, cleaned out my system. Now we have cleanses and all that wonderful stuff. I just went on a food vacation and the acne stopped. So as I added food back in, I would figure out what my triggers were. And then I also learned a lot about products that are labeled for, say, acne aren't always necessarily going to work for everybody. It doesn't work that way. So it really depends on your skin sensitivity and what's the driving trigger that you have. For some people, it's diet. For some people, we produce a thicker kind of sebum. It's a genetic thing. Maybe we have predisposed to very small pores or blockages in our pores. All of that can be genetic, which explains the family history of the acne issues. So I got it cleared up, and then I helped people through the years that would come to me that would have the problem. People would approach me, and then finally I got into health and wellness for myself, physical activity, exercise, making sure that weight loss, we'll talk about all of that. And I never had acne come back. So I decided to write a book about it in the early 2000s, which became quite a hot commodity out there. I did a lot of TV, about 4.5, 5 years of television shows about this approach, because not much, again, even today, has changed in the sphere of treating acne, although we have red light therapy and blue light therapies, which are very effective. Now, we didn't have those either. So that book did really, really well. And that's sort of what I thought I would do. And then I took a break after that.
Yeah.
After 4.5, 5 years of being on the road and on television, though I enjoyed it very much, life happens. When my parents passed away, I decided I wanted to move to a warmer climate, which I did, for where I was. And then I just started to go back on the YouTube channel rather than do television and do all of that. I still do a fair amount of these podcasts and radio, but
Yeah.
some TV, not as much. But I have my own TV show now because
Wow.
it's my YouTube
Congratulations.
channel. So I get to talk about what people really want to, people let me know what topics they want to know on. And we really go into anti-aging because a lot of this skin health is the same basic information.
Yeah.
Although it's a conundrum now because of all of the different types of products and approaches and the difference in opinions by some dermatologists about certain practices and topicals versus other dermatologists, and it gets really confusing.
Mm.
So what I've really kind of focused on is kind of unraveling the knot that people get in and helping them figure out what skincare routine is best for them for whatever age or issue that they're dealing with from a holistic standpoint. Of course, I still talk about dermatologists. I've formulated 2 skincare lines, so I know a whole lot about
Yeah.
ingredients and have esthetician background. So I have all of that. But when something's not working, it's time to go see the dermatologist. So I don't dissuade people from that.
Yeah.
It really is just learning how to care for your skin properly. And I started in my early 20s. Really started with the acne, but I really started taking care of my skin from sun protection and on down in my early 20s. And now I'm 58, and it's really paid off a lot of benefits. All of these things that we're talking about, diet,
Mm.
fitness, skincare routine, all of that plays a role because we know that now because the science is coming out and saying, if you're sedentary, you may have skin problems from that. If you are speedy or aging, there's all the stuff now about NMN and working
Mm.
on skin health from the cellular level,
Yeah.
anti-aging at the cellular level. So we've really taken it a long way. The genome was even finished in the 80s.
Yeah.
So much information
Yeah.
available now, but with that, it's confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Very
think that's where we
confusing.
sort of got to just distill, this conundrum as best as we can. But one question I do want to ask you, your book's called Acne Free in 3 Days. Do most, people who read that book and apply the principles become acne free in 3 days?
Yeah, that's why it did so well. I was on several television shows. I would get invited back because either the host had someone who did. That's how I got on television. Actually, was that I was at a conference in Toronto, Canada, helping a skincare company. I liked their products, so I was not very well known then, but I
Mm.
really liked their products, and I was sort of endorsing them. And I brought a stack of books to give away free for the person whoever bought their acne solution. Um, so a TV producer, I didn't know it at the time, came and bought the book, bought their stuff, got the book, read it, went home. She was in her early 40s then, had suffered from acne her whole life, tried everything just like I had, tried. The book isn't really a how-to book, it's what I did, but she followed the same things that I did and got relief. So I got an email saying, would you come up here to be on television and talk about
Mm.
this? Because for the person who is not getting any relief from the medical approach, dermatological approach, because they pretty much throw their hands up and say, well, we can't cure it.
Mm.
It's just like anything.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that had that problem, and I didn't know that. So we did television, and it happened to be the A channel, which was international. That's like
Yeah.
our Good Morning America type of thing. And so it really kind of put me on the map, in particularly in the UK and Canada. And so from there, I got on. Once you're on television, and they know you're not terrible at it. It got to be fun because I would come on and demonstrate different things, and then it evolved into talking about weight issues. I got to do a lot of holistic style mask. We were in the middle of that terrible, terrible recession, and so I was teaching people how to use things that you can buy at the grocery store to create really luxury level face mask for skin issues that worked really, really well. So that thing took off. So it was just like this really
Yeah.
evolving sort of time, and then it just got to be, after 5 years, that's a long time. And then, like I said, life happens, and so I needed to take a break,
Sure.
which I'm glad I did, because now I'm still helping people with acne. That's still a really big piece of who I am, but the anti-aging, de-aging, rejuvenation, because of my age and my relativity to the people of my age and older, has really become a big thing now. So the channel is sort of kind of evolved toward all kinds of skincare. All those videos, catalog of videos, there's 500 videos on this channel
Wow.
that I've
Wow.
done across these topics. So really great. I mean, I don't know if that's lucky to be like this twice. I don't know, because most people only get to do it the first time, but it's really great that it helps people and it gets them to take charge of their health,
Yeah.
which that's the really base, whether it's your skin or your weight or
Mm.
how you're feeling or any disease you're dealing with, is you have to you have to take control of your own health.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a personal thing, is becoming aware that you got to take personal accountability. So totally agree with you there. Other than sending you to the channel, if someone does have acne, and obviously you've probably updated the book, but what can they do straight away, Chris?
Well, the first thing is to stop freaking out or worrying with yourself if stuff's not working. Excuse me. If stuff's not working, you are where you are. I mean, it's not working. So a lot of people continue therapies way past time when it's not working for them and maybe contributing. And the first thing to do is to try to figure out what your triggers are. Is it the way your diet is set up? You can take a short fast. And this is typical in the medical community of a lot of things anymore.
Mm.
Like for allergies, so take all the stuff out and put it in one thing at a time. Start with the healthy stuff, the vegetables, and look at the oils that you're eating. Olive oil is better than, cooking oil. Even vegetable oil, olive oil is better. Take sugar, seems to be a big trigger for a lot of people. For a lot of women, dairy products, for whatever reason, we think that's because a lot of dairy, at least in our country here, has hormone factors in it that may kind of upset that balance for women. So that's the first thing I always tell people: look at your diet, look at your routine, and then look at your product use, how your skincare routine is set up. A lot of people with oily, acne-prone skin over cleanse all the time. It's like, oh, I got to get the oil off. It's the oil. Well, the oil isn't creating the acne. It contributes, but it's the bacteria in your immune system's response to that bacteria down in the pore that causes the problem. That's why everybody has acne bacteria on their skin. It digests the oil we produce. Everybody has it. Some people get acne, some people don't. So if you're one of the lucky ones like me that had it, you have to sort of figure out your products that are going to work well for you. Salicylic acid may be too drying. If your skin feels dry and flaky, that can contribute to blocked pores and more acne. A lot of people don't know that. If you're stripping too much oil in your cleansing process morning and night, your skin's going to have a proclivity to produce more oil to replace it.
Mm.
So the idea is to always have your skin hydrated and fresh feeling, not dry and tight. And I can remember using products. My skin was so tight after I would use these products for acne, and that is not good. It means the pH of your skin is off. It means your skin's going to be produce a whole lot more. When your pH of your skin is off, it allows bacteria to run wild, as we call it. So your skin should never feel dry, tight, or squeaky clean. I know that seems counterintuitive for a lot of people that have oily skin, but trust me when I say cleansing correctly with a hydrating, foaming cleanser that can get all the oil, dirt, bacteria out of the pores, but yet leave your skin hydrated, is your best bet. And you have to kind of play around with some of the cleansers sometimes. Fortunately, they're not very expensive. Then you can bump up to one that's for gentle skin, it's for sensitive skin, it's gentle for sensitive skin and acne prone skin. And there are several out there. Rubino has several of those calming cleansers that do that, so that everything is set up right. And then you got to moisturize. And when I tell people with acne, you want me to put moisturizer on my skin? I have oily skin. Yes. Not oil-based moisturizer, but a hyaluronic acid, water, glycerin-based moisturizer, because when you put the moisture on, your skin's not going to be prone to produce all that extra oil.
Sure.
And they're amazed at how much relief they get just from changing those sort of things in their skincare routine. And then if you continue to have problems using a lactic acid face wash or glycolic acid, those are AHAs, and what they help do is dissolve the bond between old dead skin cells and new skin cells, and they help dissolve that sebum that's a little thicker, tends to be a little thicker in production for those of us who have acne prone skin, thinning it out and keeping it from causing breakouts. And then there are all sorts of new things you can apply, like niacinamide, which is very calming to the skin, and also brightening. And then also adapalene, which is a retinoid specifically designed for, and I think it's available over the counter everywhere now, to help calm that acne process down, much like Accutane did internally. If you continue to have, if you have severe acne or you continue to have issues after trying to make those changes and you haven't seen a dermatologist, you really need to do that, because they can help you identify some different types of products. They have a range of prescription products that might not be available to you otherwise that can help you clear that up, because the end goal is to make sure you don't have scarring, because the deeper scarring is very hard to repair. Light acne scarring, those marks get left behind, whole host of things you can do to get rid of those relatively quickly. But those deep pits or indentures where you've had a large cyst and it pushed the collagen away and that around that pore, then you have that indentation. You have to get a filler, or like a permanent filler, or you have to go in and have some type of procedure done to remove those. It can be done. It's more invasive. So try to prevent that stuff on the front end, much like they did with me. So while I still had suffered with acne breakouts, the cystic acne, the dermatologist, we did get that under control. So I don't have a lot of that mottled look on my face, even though I had some pretty serious cysts in there, because I would go in and, like I said, get the shot. They would put a shot in there of antibiotic to calm that down. So much easier if you can figure out what the trigger is and stop that on the front end. Then you don't have to deal with all of that fun stuff.
So basically diet and then a routine with regards to assessing your skin from an oiliness. Is it dry? It should be not tight. It really should be not squeaky clean. And obviously, we can talk about the skin microbiome. Chris, what is the latest research and science to repopulate the microbiome of the skin? And that, Made to Thrive, we've spoken about the oral microbiome, obviously the gut microbiome. These things are crucially important. The skin microbiome is fundamentally important as well to ensure that we can get the correct bacteria in balance. How we use a skin care. We're going to get into skin care in terms of the natural products here at the practice, but with also at Made to Thrive that has probiotic serums in them. Right. They've got these bacteria in them, all organic in origin. That's sort of the way we run here. But what's the latest research on the skin microbiome?
Well, we actually talked about it. I didn't call it that, but that's what we were talking about when we were talking about stretching the skin's ability by changing the pH or getting it too over cleansed. You're breaking down that lipid barrier, which is very, very important in keeping that bacteria in balance. Because when active bacteria gets out of balance down in the pores, your immune system is going to react to that if you are an acne-prone person. On the anti-aging side, which is a great transition, we also know that those certain bacteria on the skin help to keep the skin cell turnover speeding along. So we don't want that to slow down. And so a lot of times commercial products that has salicylic acid, I could name 100 alcohol, it upsets those bacterial balances, and then you end up having a slowing or a textured skin feeling. And so we talk about things like lactic acid and glycolic acid on the front end of this, because they are sugars. They're natural byproducts of plants that are used to help speed that process up and bring balance back. The biggest issue that we see in research is you can apply probiotic products, but they have to be housed in a very hydrating base. So you need a lot of moisture. The skin, as we get older, our skin loses moisture more easily as things tend to thin out a little bit. So if you are good at keeping your skin hydrated, then probiotics help keep that balance on the outside of the skin, and then of course protecting it from the sun, because nothing messes up the biome of the skin like too much sunshine, too much UVA, UVB light. I mean, it kills off a whole lot of the good bacteria, and it just really literally creates havoc. And then I always get the controversy, well, there is the thing that some people need some sun. So the consensus is early morning sun, late afternoon sun, a little bit of that without sunscreen is not harmful. It's actually good for the body. It's this day in, day out exposure to noon type of sun where we take no protection whatsoever. You know, that's a problem. And using sunscreen is not going to keep you from getting vitamin D if you're getting, if you're doing your morning walk, it's fine. If you're walking through the park and it's got, it's that sort of thing. But if you're standing in bright, hot sun, you're damaging your skin. So, everything always comes back to some sort of balance.
Yeah.
But there are things, radiation is going to kill off bacteria. That's why people used to hang their clothes out in the sun to dry.
Yeah.
Because it dried the clothes and killed the bacteria. So there's a wide grade, a wide availability of different types of probiotic skincare that works really, really well for people, especially with people with rosacea, psoriasis, and acne, because again, it brings those, as you call it, biome back into balance. But again, it is also that internal switch, especially for acne and people that have rosacea and eczema, because it's there's a part the immune system plays where it gets triggered and it thinks there's something wrong. So it tries to bring a lot of inflammation forward. The probiotic skincare, that was good. I'm glad I said that. One of the key benefits of that is the lowering of skin inflammation. So I call it skin cooling, but it's the skin inflammation. If you can get skin inflammation under control, which that often helps, improving that moisture barrier, lipid barrier, microbiome, all of those things are really important. Then you're going to see a cessation of these type of triggers where you get these flare-ups or these sudden breakouts, because we know we can tie acne and rosacea very definitely to stress. There's always been that, why does this show up when I'm about to get married? Why does this show? Because as we get stressed, we raise the markers in our body. Inflammation markers go way, way up. And that's why acne is a really tough go for some people, because as they stress out over it more, they bring more inflammation. They make their immune system more susceptible to react. So it's like a vicious circle.
So let's try and give some practical advice to the audience and the viewers. Is what should they look for on skin products? I mean, there's this massive range. Price is, fluctuates from different type of products. What should they not put on their skin? And obviously, we try and keep it as holistic and natural as possible. But there's a lot of these ranges that are expensive. The listener now, what should they look for in terms of the ingredients? What should they avoid?
Well, we could spend 2 hours on this, but we'll start with the easy side, which is what to not have on your skin, if at all possible. And that again is sulfates, anything that says that means it has a detergent in it. So if you have that in your shampoo, your body wash, which your body skin's part of it should get the same treatment as everything else, then you may be over drying your skin and may be sensitive to that and not even know it. Also, fragrance, whether it's natural or synthetic. A lot of times we'll see essential oils. It was a natural fragrance here in the US. They don't require you to be told what it is. It just is fragrance. So that can be a problem. So if you have very sensitive skin and you get these red flushes or rashes or something, check your skincare products, hair care products that may have to go fragrance free. So sulfate free, fragrance free. If you have acne prone skin, looking for things that are oil free, making sure you don't have mineral oil in a product. Coconut oil, it's one of those. It's natural and it sounds like it should be really good. And it is for some people, especially if you have dry skin, but it is comedogenic and it will sit on the skin and block pores. So if you have acne issues, not a good idea. Petroleum jelly, here's one where I am at odds with half of the skincare community. If you're going to use petroleum jelly, it's great for dry skin. It's a cap. It holds moisture in. It's a protectant. So it is not, in my opinion, great for daily use. I mean, around and under the eyes at night, if you're trying to improve dryness, that's fine. Because again, it will hold 90, almost 100% of the moisture in. But this slugging thing where people are applying it all over and leaving it on all overnight, if you have acne prone skin or you're prone to amelia, which is those little white kernels that get up under the skin, petroleum is not for you, and it shouldn't be in any of your products because it's going to contribute to that condition. Alcohol, which is a really tough one for people to figure out because there are good alcohols and bad alcohols. Denatured alcohol, bad alcohol because it's very drying to the skin. It evaporates moisture. It breaks down the lipid barrier. It takes those lipids away. So anything that has denatured alcohol in it, it can be a problem, or if it just says alcohol. But the ester alcohols are actually fatty alcohols. I don't know, I would call them alcohol, but they are, and they're actually good for the skin, and they help to replace and replenish the fatty lipids in your lipid barrier. So just because it says alcohol and it don't go, whoa, because a lot of people do that. If it's an ESTHER or ESTR, if you see any of those type of things in there, it's spelled differently in different countries. That's okay. The other thing, and we don't see too much of it anymore, are parabens, which are preservatives that were causing a problem with hormone balance. And then in your sunscreens, and I think most everybody knows this now, that they're chemical sunscreens. If you can avoid them, it's better to. There are some that are banned, octinoxate, avobenzone, banned in the oceans, banned in countries where there are coral reef issues from people jumping into the water. So what I tell people about it, if you can use a hybrid sunscreen, which is a very small amount of chemical with mostly mineral, those are great for land use. But if you're going to get into water, make sure you're using mineral only. That says ocean safe on the sunscreen. But sunscreen, very important. And I know that one gets really confusing. That's, for the most part, that's the big no-nos. There are like 17 different ones, but a lot of them we're not seeing anymore because they've gotten a lot of bad press. What to look for? Okay, I'm going to break this up a little bit because it's different depending on your skin type. If you have dry skin, we'll start there because a lot of people have this issue, especially as you get older. You want to look for products that have ceramides in them. Ceramides are lipids that are put into a product that help, again, build up that lipid barrier and help keep your moisture in your skin. Hyaluronic acid, which is a salt our skin produces anyway, but as we get older, we produce less of it. That is a good ingredient for almost everybody. The controversy there is that there's a difference between a hyaluronic acid and a hyaluronic acid cream. The serum is pure hyaluronic acid, usually in a water base. The water evaporates, and the hyaluronic acid, if you're in a dry climate, can hold up to about 1,000 times, more or less, its molecular weight in moisture. So it can be very hydrating to the skin, but if you're in a dry climate, it will take moisture out of the skin if you use the serum. So that's where we hear a lot of the stories. Well, I tried hyaluronic acid. My skin was really dry and irritated. If you get it in a cream base, which is like glycerin and water, even dimethicone is in a lot, which is a silicone that helps cap like that petroleum, but that breathes. It actually breathes, unlike petroleum jelly. Then you're going to have a good experience with hyaluronic acid. The stuff is really wonderful. The funny thing here in Florida, it's very humid in the summer. So I try to switch to a different type of cream that isn't all hyaluronic acid based because it makes me sticky because it's picking up moisture. It's like, I don't like that feeling. So you sort of have to play around with it depending on the season, but it is a good ingredient. Peptides. And this is going to be another one that's really confusing a lot of people because there's a lot of conjecture out there. Well, peptides are too big molecularly to be absorbed into the skin, and we hear all that stuff. Well, that's not exactly true. The peptides I'm talking about are amino acids, which you produce anyway. Again, what we're doing is trying to beef up the skin with its own natural ingredients, squalene, hexapeptide, agirreline, all of these peptides that we tend to produce in very small amounts in the skin, you can apply topically, and they can help your skin retain moisture and help improve and keep your collagen building in the upper layers of the skin. Now, none of this stuff is going down in the lower layers of the skin. We can talk about diet and taking collagen peptides internally. hydrolyte, which can be helpful,
Mhm.
extremely helpful, but we're just on topicals right now. So in most skincare products, you're going to see with peptides, you're going to see a mixture. Matrixyl 3000 is one of those proprietary. They just 6 or 7 of these and put them together. So peptides can be very helpful. The exfoliation process is extremely important. I am one of the probably beat the drum the loudest about exfoliation. In fact, there are some YouTube dermatologists that don't even really talk about it, that tell people not to wash their arms. Stuff weird. Just it's YouTube is weird. So let's talk about exfoliation because it's extremely important. When you're little, your skin cells come off at a really rapid rate. And you're in your teens, they continue to do so. About 22, 23, they start to slow down. And what that means is that we have a small buildup of dead skin cells. They're very thin, microscopic. This is not something that you notice until you get textured skin. When your skin starts to feel that sort of weird texture, then you know you have a pretty good buildup of that. So there are 2 ways to remove the skin. One is through a mechanical means, like a buff puff sponge or one of those devices that spins, that takes the skin off, or facial scrubs, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm not, because they can be really harsh. And the mechanical things, people tend to overdo them. That's, I guess, why I'm really reluctant I don't tell people not to use them, but if they're using them successfully, but you have to be careful. You're not scrubbing a pan. This needs to be, no more than twice a week. You use any sort of mechanical device, whether it's a scrub or one of those spin brushes, any of those things to take the skin off. You don't want to go too far, too deep, or you get some issues. You can get spider veins from that too. You can irritate the skin and create spider veins in your skin from that as it responds. Because spider veins aren't broken veins; they are the capillaries your skin produces to try to heal itself. So that's another myth that gets bounded around. So telangiectasias, they got a real pretty name. Telangiectasia, spider veins. So the best way to me is to use a product with a AHA or a BHA, like a glycolic acid serum, which is again made from sugar, lactic acid, which used to be made from milk. We figured out how to make it from plants now. It's just way more sustainable and much more animal friendly. So a lot of people don't even know that. And you apply those daily in your skincare routine. And if they're in your products, a lot of times you'll see them mixed in. They help dissolve that bond between the old dead skin on your face or body and the new skin underneath. They speed that process back up. So you get smoother, brighter, more even looking skin. Very important to use sunscreen when you're using AHAs or BHAs. BHAs are a little bit different. They do that plus, again, they help thin out that sebum that's down in the pores, so like salicylic acid is a BHA. You can take those all the way up to peel grade, which means they're stronger and stronger, and they work more quickly and more deeply. A lot of dermatologists use very strong AHA type of peels to like get it going, because sometimes that crust, we like to call it a crust, it's really kind of what it is. It's blocking your other skincare products. It's keeping, even if you're using probiotics, it can't get down into the skin because you've got that layer. Your skin's doing what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to protect you from the environment. So the use of those can be very, very helpful, especially over time. I've been using glycolic acid since I was 22. Just the video that comes out today, I'm talking about that. So I've been using that for 36 years. And I think a lot of the fact that I don't have a lot of wrinkling has to do with the fact that I've kept that product, I've kept that speeding up of cellular turnover, plus I've used sun protection very well throughout the year. So that can be very, very helpful. The other thing to look for is retinoic acid if you can tolerate it. And this is another long one, so I apologize. Retinoid's a family of vitamin A derivatives that go all the way from tretinoin, which is prescription strength, all the way down to your drugstore over-the-counter retinol. The issue people have with tretinoin and some of the retinol products is that there's a 2-step conversion process that happens. When you put retinol on, it's retinol, then it has to convert it twice to become retinoic acid. So that can create irritation on the skin. So the retinoic acid is actually, no matter what product you're using, is what's helping your skin. So the stronger it is, And retinoic acid has the ability to be absorbed pretty deeply into the skin. That's why it's prescription strength on the tretinoin end, because it goes deeper. It does a lot of things. It repairs some of the DNA damage from sun, photo aging, accumulated sun damage. It can actually help build collagen in the deeper layers of the skin. It supports that. It helps speed up cellular turnover. It helps fade age spots. It does a whole lot of things. So it is still, out of all the topical products we have that are, it sounds like it's a chemical, but it's not. It's a vitamin. It's the strongest, the best, the most robust when it comes to skin health. The issue again is not everybody can tolerate it, but now we have retinaldehyde products. So it goes from retinol to retinaldehyde to retinoic acid on the skin. Now you can get retinaldehyde products. Maylove is a brand that has one called the Moonlight Serum. I really like that one. It's a retinaldehyde that goes onto the skin and immediately converts into retinoic acid, so you don't have that chemical process happening on the surface of your skin causing you irritation. A lot of people acclimate to prescription strength tretinoin over time. Your skin gets used to it, but it can be a 1 to 2 month process where it's red, it's itchy, it's kind of flaky. But folks that use it and get past that period see some phenomenal improvement in their skin. And again, remember, for cosmetic procedures, lifts, tucks, all that stuff are going to tighten the look of your skin, maybe the contour, but that's not going to change the surface of your skin and how it looks.
Yeah.
So facelift doesn't fix everything. So it fixes some things, for people that need those procedures. I'm like all for it. If you've got a lot of damage, or you've got genetically predisposed to like a lot of loose skin, those procedures with the right surgeon and the right dermatologist behind it can be amazing. Now, I'm not talking about Hollywood facelifts that we see. That's what I'm talking about. People should not even know you had one. You should just look refreshed. That's what a proper plastic surgery procedure should give you. It just refreshes. You should still look like you. So, I'm not against those type of things, but generally that's what I tell people. Here's what you need in a skincare routine. It's probably the easiest way to bring this all to where it makes a focus. One is you need a good cleanser. We just talked about how to tell if you got one or not. Then you need to apply peptides. You need to have a vitamin C serum. Vitamin C is L-ascorbic acid or sodium magnesium ascorbyl phosphate are the two versions of those. L-ascorbic acid, unstable, very strong, works very quickly. It's in what most products you would get today for vitamin C serums would have in it. But the other version is stable, gives you the same benefits over time, but less irritating to sensitive skin types. But either way, vitamin C serum, because vitamin C serum has been proven in studies after studies, and you just have to ask people that use it, how many benefits it gives your skin on the surface. It helps protect your skin from the sun, so it's an extra layer of protection. It helps to speed up cellular turnover. It helps to break up those little pockets of melanin that create the freckles and the spots and all the things that people don't like that come from sun damage. It helps prevent new ones. It's very well tolerated, and your body knows what to do with it. It's a food, basically. So I always say vitamin C on the inside, vitamin C on the outside.
Yeah.
Very important. And then, of course, a moisturizer if you need one, and only but for most people, a moisturizer is going to be necessary. And then at night, some sort of retinol product. At night, we don't use retinols during the day, even the retinaldehyde, because sunlight breaks it down. If the minute the sunlight hits it, it begins to degrade and it doesn't give you the benefit that you would normally get. So at night, it's really great as like a sleeping serum. And then again, if you have dry skin, ceramide creams that have the fatty acids added back into them, or a hyaluronic acid deep moisturizing cream at night. For most people, that's going to get you there. Your skin's going to look good without a whole lot of fuss. That's just a few steps. Now, if you're into the probiotic skincare, the ones I've seen, those steps are about the same.
Yeah.
That just has the addition of the beneficial bacteria. So if you feel like your skin is still looking dull and you're still prone to breakouts, those are great products to try to see if you need to get that balance back on your skin if it's out of balance. It's just different for everybody. So it's hard to give everybody just a one,
Sure.
do this and you'll be great, because
Mm.
that doesn't really work. But those are the basics. I mean, that's the basics. And sun protection, of course, super important for the long term. I just did a talk in a YouTube short where all I said was, I've got news for you. If your skincare products aren't going to work for you, if you're not using sun protection, you're going to look old.
Yeah.
That was the whole video.
Mm.
You know, there isn't just a whole lot more to say about that. And then, of course, choose your sunscreen carefully. You know,
Because of
I
what's
really
inside
like,
it.
yeah, because you know what's in your sunscreen, and we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. What about this is, I've been using a lot of infrared lights, I do infrared sauna 6 times a week. I've recommended a lot
Love it.
for skin conditions and that. But what I've noticed is because of, and we can get into a bit of anti-aging now, and we can sort of just pivot to the mitochondria and the different photoreceptors on the walls of the mitochondria. But what I've noticed is that since using a lot more red lights on the desk, it's an incredible company called Sauna Space that I work out of in terms of the US, and it's a caged incandescent globe of near and mid infrared, so there's no dirty electricity that comes from it, and it's incandescent. So I've done a lot of research on this, and we're big proponents of Sauna Space. They're going to be at the Health Optimization Summit in London the end of the month. But what I've noticed is that when people use the infrared and they use this incandescent bulb, they go out into the sun and they don't get burnt. And what happens is it clears out blemishes, it clears out, any pimples, any acne, because it seems like this, and I love your perspective, that it's the lack of red light and infrared light that's not in balance with our lifestyle. So when people get too much UV, the damage is coming from the UVA and the UVB.
Right.
And so we need to increase our red light time, our infrared and red light time. And then we do not get the damaging effects of the UVA and UVB. And we've seen it with cars and windscreens, because the windscreen and the window cut 42% of your infrared and your red light. So you're now getting just UVA and UVB, and UVA and UVB is where the damage lies.
That's right. Yeah, the more people get sun damage from their cars, from the wind. Even I, as diligent as I've been, what little damage I do is more noticeable on my window side, this side of me, which in the US, this side is the side, always get the sun on the driver's side, right? And not on the passenger side because it's shaded. So you're absolutely right. And I don't want to cut you off. It's funny because I use that analogy. Two analogies I use a lot on skincare and aging is, look at the side, if you drive, look at the side of your body that's been exposed on a regular basis over the years to light coming in from that side of the car. And the other analogy is, if you want to see how much sun damage you have, look at the skin on your behind, because most of us have that covered since we got here, and compare it to the rest of your body that's been exposed. And that's the level of sun damage that you have. It's not different skin. It's just been protected all this time. So the red light therapies, which is something that I have been testing out diligently since last March. I'm just now getting the reviews out because it takes time. Like anything with skin, hair, all of those things take time. So UV light, we know that it does that, tickles the mitochondria, is the way I put it in layman's terms, wakes them up. There is some supporting evidence that it helps repair telomeres too. Waiting to see if that really is the case, but it does seem to have the longer you use it, the more it sort of fix the machine in there. It does help speed up. We know collagen production. We know it helps speed up the repair of damage in DNA tissues, especially if you're using or taking NMN along with these therapies, because you're feeding the NAD in your system. We're probably getting way off topic here. This gets into really deep stuff, but it's good stuff. Yeah. I mean, the technology is amazing. It's been around for years in the sports community. It's how they super healed these athletes and got them back on the field. And you're like, a normal person would be, in a wheelchair for a year. So we know that it does all of that. I've been testing out the combination of the red light with RF, which is radio frequency, and EMS. I have been testing out the mid and what you said, the mid range infrared red light for hair growth, because that is scientifically proven that for many people that have hair loss, that helps where nothing else has. These red light therapies, I've made a prediction that skincare is going to become where your main part of your skincare routine is the red light therapies or the light therapies, and the topicals are the secondary, where it's sort of flipped right now.
Yeah.
If you would agree with that. I mean, most people think of creams and lotions and potions and all of that stuff. And if you can get diet and exercise and fitness in there with them, but we know that with all three of those, when you're using red light therapy, it really makes a what's a right word? Palpable. I mean, it makes a very measurable difference in your body's response to even other therapies. So how long is it going to help? We don't know that yet, but we do know that it does make these. We do know that that working with things on the cellular level is really where it's at, because that's where the healing, that's where the balance has to take place first before it ever shows up on the skin. So even with good topical products, I teach patients with skincare, you didn't get there. It's like weight loss. You didn't get there overnight. You didn't wake up an extra 100 pounds. That didn't happen. Same thing with skin. Skin is formed down layers deep. So what we see today, we see old news. This is old news. For some of us, it's really old news. But, as you work these therapies, and as red light therapy becomes more the standard and more affordable for a lot of people, because it can still be pretty expensive. You can go into the salon and get it, but I like that because it's not unsafe. So it's not unsafe for people to have it in the home and use these devices. The first ones that came out admittedly did not admit enough range to do a whole lot, but now we are seeing in-home devices like you're talking about, and like the Lumo that Even Skin has, which is one of the ones I'm testing, which are they're medical grade. I mean, they're the same type of quality, craftsmanship, and the same amount of red light therapy or radio frequency therapy, all those therapies that you would usually pay $1,000 or more dollars for to go get. And we know that they work. And then you can lay on top of those, if you really have some deeper skin tissue issues like sagging jowls or crepey skin, we know that we can use ULT therapy, which is ultrasound therapy, to really hit those cells on the deeper levels of the skin. And by warming them, the mitochondria wakes up. I'm using layman's terms. Let's just say it wakes up. It talks to the cells correctly. The cells become stronger. The cell walls become stronger. And then you get better looking skin. And we know that those therapies can make a huge difference for a lot of people. Not every single therapy works the same amount for every single person, because there are other underlying factors that can be going on in the body, the stresses and what have you. But you're right. Those therapies are up and coming.
And that's sorry, Chris, I want to just interrupt you there, because it's my belief that it's not really the sun that's damaging, and maybe I can get your perspective, is that we're getting the wrong light. If you sit in your car the whole time and you're getting UVA and UVB, you got a problem. Because I've noticed people's skin has improved by giving them the red lights. They've used the red lights, and then they go into the sun and they wise. If the UV index is high, you've got a problem. But if the UV index is not high and they've had the red lights, they don't get red. They don't get sun damage. They don't get the response. The redness is a response of oxidative stress in the skin.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
If you're just going brown, and you can see my skin, I'm very, very, pedantic about my skin. But because I'm in the infrared so often and I'm getting a red light, I've got a red light and infrared on my desk, I go out into the sun, I never get red. I never get burnt. So even when I'm out in the sun, obviously, if the UV index is high, one has to watch it. But I go brown instantaneously with no sensitivity. So is it not the balance of light rather than the sun itself that's causing problems?
Yeah, and you're right. And that's what the confusion is. And that's that early morning, if we take the red light out, that's why it's early morning, late afternoon sun, you need some. We're surface dwellers. Humans are surface dwellers. So our bodies know what to do with some of the sunlight. We're not meant to lay out and bake in it. You know, our ancestors, for the most part, many of them did not do that. I mean, there's culturally, we have people that mid-afternoon, what do? They take a nap. They go indoors. They get out of the heat of the day. So that gets forgotten, but you're right. It is, if the sun isn't the problem, without it, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's not really, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You need some. And most sunscreens are not going to keep all sun out. I mean, that's just, you know, unless you like put a 50 on and covered yourself in clothes and an umbrella, you might be able to get it all. But you're right, it is the UVA, UVB wavelengths that are the problem. So I don't know too much about the science of red light with this. What you're bringing up is a little bit newer to me. I haven't heard this part, but it does make sense to me based on what I know that red light therapies do for the skin, because the skin has its own natural ability to protect itself from the sun.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have any.
Of course.
If you eat a diet, this is what's so funny about it. If you eat a diet that's high in red vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, whatever, your skin has a pronounced ability to protect itself from damaging rays versus if you don't.
Yeah.
That's a scientific, there's studies on that. So I steer people on when we talk about diet, I steer people that way. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You can grow tomatoes if you put red reflective material under a tomato plant. It produces way more tomatoes. Yeah. So there's, you know, and I think you're right. I think that it does a disservice with some of the stuff that we talk about, because it makes people think the only thing that comes from the sun are 2 rays.
Yeah.
You know, well, 3 if you know about the long wave.
Yeah.
But you know, that's mostly what people think. They don't realize all the other spectrum that
Correct.
plants and animals and the earth needs in order to be healthy and
because
robust. So,
am I correct? There's a lot of melanoma where sun doesn't shine, you know, between toes where they pick it up. Office workers have a higher rate of melanoma than outside workers. So it seems that, you know, that infrared could be very protective, or that red could be protective, you know, regarding we're getting blue light and white light, all these LEDs, halogens. And I'm sort of harping on light because I think you're right. I think your light diet with regards to your health, your performance, your skin is going to be crucially important with regards to, you know, having a good looking, healthy skin, having a healthy life. And so I'm harping on it because there's many people that stay indoors. They say the sun is bad. It's not the sun. It's the type of sun. It's the dosage. You know, I give this analogy that if you want to say good mineral water is healthy, if I say to you, Chris, drink 25 liters in one day, you know, it doesn't matter how healthy that mineral water is, there's going to be problems. So I don't know what your perspective is on that it's really about the dosage, frequency, and what type of light you get.
Right. You know, and living in 2 different areas. Well, I grew up in Texas. I live in Florida now. And I lived up in the northeast of the US, Pennsylvania, for 15 years. And I can tell you, and this goes for skin health, not taking the beach bums out of it, the people that have laid out and baked in the sun, people are healthier here, and there's less incidence of cancer here than in Pennsylvania, where it's gray and dark 6 months out of the year, and you have these really short summers. Now, that does not mean that people that have lived there generations, we all mutate, humans mutate just like everything else, that becomes less and less. But there is a marked difference between the health of people that are able to be outdoors. And let's face it, the 70% of the population doesn't wear sunscreen correctly. So, you know, it's not the sunscreen doing the protect, it's the activity. Yeah. You're meant to go outside and enjoy things. And I'm very careful. You know, something I don't talk about too often, there is the mental side. We have a mental ability to create things in ourselves, including disease, from our mindsets and what we believe. So I'm very careful with what I try to let people know, because that's why I say not all things work for one person. Yeah. You know, there were doctors that told me I didn't know what I was talking about, doing a fast and taking probiotics. And I was on national TV, and then MRSA happened, and everybody's like, oh my God, people need to be on probiotics. Now everybody eats probiotics. It's like, you know, so I'm very, you know, you have to be careful. I don't want to give someone the fear of being outside because you're going to be outside sooner or later. And if you have that mindset and that belief system, you're not doing yourself any favors. Being afraid of something, because oftentimes we attract what we're afraid of. So, I try to be careful, because there is the mind body connection that plays such a huge role in everything. But there's good solid evidence on the red light therapies. I've read these. I put studies in my videos. It's so funny because if I quote studies, I always link to them in there, and now people going, I wouldn't look this up and I can't find any independent studies. A lot of people don't even know what an independent study is, really. So I'm big on teaching people to research things, because when you get in there and you see for yourself what the benefits or the problems with a certain chemical, product, device, technique, whatever, you're more apt to make really better decisions intuitively for what you need. Until your body knows what it needs, and you'll feel that people have that ability to recognize something. I need that. So I felt a kinship to the red light therapy. I understood it. Then when I researched it, I really understood it. And then when I started putting it into practice, I don't do the full body stuff yet, but where I'm using the mask and getting the right, because I started with some that weren't really this strong enough. It does make a big difference. It does make a big difference. And it's not going to melt the fat off your face, because that's the other thing. There's always this stuff that comes out. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
We're coming to the end of the show, just last few minutes, Chris, and I really appreciate your time. But let's talk about the latest cutting edge medical treatments like platelet-rich plasma or stem cell injections, or even the peptide injections that I've been doing for a while. Tell us your view on, if people want to get the best bang for their buck, they want to really do like maybe one or two procedures. I know that I don't have much space or time for the fillers or Botox or anything like that. And everybody's got to make their own choice, of course. But I'm looking at sort of cutting edge, latest sort of scientific, invasive medical procedures. What would you recommend to the people out there?
Well, I think what you just mentioned, the ones that I talk about the most, and that is anything that is going to be acceptable to your skin and help improve the structure, improve the cell health. Is all those therapies you just mentioned are fine. Botox does not do that. Facelifts don't do that. That's what I was talking about. Some of the things that we do will give you improvement. They don't really change the health of your skin or the texture, or help prevent problems like age spots and melasma and all of those things, where we know that the plasma, especially for people that have melasma issues, because that's a cell that's producing too much melanin, a lot of times those type of procedures will go in and balance that out. So we're not just attacking melasma, the dark patches from the outside with, say, tranexamic acid. We're actually working with the cells to get them in balance so they don't produce it in the first place. So those type of therapies that you're talking about, they are cutting edge. Of course, the media gets hold of them and calls them all kinds of crazy names, vampire facial, that stuff that you see. But for some people, and I would say go to a professional that does them and can tell you what the best treatment is for you and whatever goal you have or whatever issue you're facing. Not all of those treatments, I think, are going to work for every single person, but I'm not an expert in that. You are, but I do know that they work much better in the long term than any of these short term procedures. Like Botox it's a toxin, so your body has to figure out how to get rid of it, and we know that it doesn't get rid of all of it, and we know that you have to go back. And we now see people that have been doing Botox since the late 70s, early 80s. When you get your 70s, it doesn't look so good, because muscles is a trophy. If you don't use them, they're a trophy. They get weak. And so they either quit using them or they quit being effective in the musculature of the face, which I'm big on practicing facial yoga to keep the muscles toned.
Facial yoga.
Yeah, to keep these muscles underneath the skin toned. It's just pressure, not moving the skin. People that have had Botox over the years, those muscles don't get used. So guess what happens? They shrink. So guess what happens when muscles shrink under your skin? It gets droopy, right? So, and then the Botox doesn't work as well. So you got to really think things through. How long are you going to do something? Whereas what you're talking about actually feeds the skin, actually helps improve the structure of the bones, the blood, the the muscle and the skin surface itself. So anything that does that, I'm for. So
okay, sorry. One last question. One exercise, one facial yoga exercise. You've intrigued me, Chris. I've never heard of yoga.
I have a whole video on this. All right. So the premise is that as we get older, we lose some bone in the face. Our bones shrink a little bit. Muscles can also atrophy if you don't use them. If you're doing, it's really toning the muscle. So let's say the cheekbones right here. If you put your fingers right here,
yeah,
and just press the muscle under your fingertips and hold it, and then release it. I have people doing this. There's a neck stretch pose that doesn't stretch the skin. You don't want to ever stretch the skin out.
Yeah.
It tones that muscle just like you would work out. So over a couple of weeks, you get stronger facial muscles. And if you're older, it can make up for some of the difference some of the bone loss you've had, and can actually make your face look a lot better.
Brilliant.
So, and it's non-invasive and it's easy to do. So, I have a challenge on the video.
Yeah, we're gonna link to that video. We got to get that from you.
I have a challenge on those videos where people come back and say, you know what, I've been doing this for 3 weeks and it actually does look better. And it's just we work out everything but the face. It's like we protect everything but the rest of the body. So people have these really nice young faces and then they look terrible everywhere else. So
yeah, it makes sense to me. Makes sense to me as a doctor's Chinese medicine and acupuncture, the myofascial techniques we do, the mobilizations we do, the acupressure we do there, the acupuncture we do there.
Yeah,
injection
the
therapy.
lymph system. That's really great. People don't realize that a lot of this is just fluid that builds up.
Exactly.
So yeah, okay. I will be glad to do that.
Brilliant. Okay, Chris Gibson, last 30 seconds, a message of hope for people out there who struggle with their skin. Let them know.
Never too late, and never too late to start. Never too late. Your skin can really do some amazing things when it's treated correctly.
Brilliant. We declare favor and blessing over you, Chris Gibson, your calling and your purpose, just your courage to speak out in terms of this field. That's incredible. So I just want to really just lift you up and honor you and thank you for the work. We'll link to, all the channels and your YouTube channel and try and make you as famous as we can in Africa. Awesome. Yeah, it's really what a privilege. Thank you so much.